All right, we are on Perik. We're talking about Yosef and Miriam. Perik Mem Hey Pasuk Yud Daled, which is on page Mem Hey Yud Daled, page 254. So we had also spoke. We were wondering yesterday. We had spoken about they were cross crying. So one of the commentaries makes an interesting question over here. He asks, based on other statements that are made about when they slaughtered the meat and everything else, it turns out this was Shabbos. It was Shabbos when the brothers met, when Yosef revealed himself, was on Shabbos. So one of the Meforshim asks, this shows you how broad Chumash is. You know, it's not just the story, because it goes into the whole Torah has to be consistent with itself. And according to the opinions that there are opinions that they kept all the halachas. The Ovos kept all the halachas. Avram Avinu kept even the Rabbanans, it says. It says even the Rabbanans. That's why they ask how Yakov could have married two sisters. So one of the answers is that they only kept the Torah in Eretz Yisrael, which would answer this question. But aside from that, the question is, how could Yosef and Binyamin cry if it was Shabbos? Not to cry on Shabbos, not to be sad on Shabbos. So one answer is tears of joy. Right, but I told you that tears of joy are mixed with sadness. So how could they be? If it's Shabbos and they kept the entire Torah and they kept the Torah in Chutz La'aretz also, so assuming they did, so how could they cry if it's Shabbos? That's the question. So one of the answers they give over here is that we said yesterday they were crying about the destroyed Beis Hamikdash. Right, Binyamin was crying about the Mishkan and Yosef was crying about the destroyed Beis Hamikdash. So there's a pasuk that says, "Kila Hashem chamoso al eitim ve'avonim." Hashem took out His wrath on wood and stones. That means that sometimes the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash was actually a benefit to the Jews, because it wouldn't have been the Beis Hamikdash; it would have been the people themselves. So what Yosef and Binyamin are actually crying tears of joy. They're actually crying tears of joy for the future. Beis Hamikdash is going to be destroyed. That means that they're going to be Jewish people are going to be spared. That's one of the answers that's given. Now there is a medrash, an interesting medrash. Rabbi Akiva was once crying on Shabbos. It's very interesting because Rabbi Akiva, you know the Gemara that says when they went towards the Beis Hamikdash, saw a fox come out of the Beis Hamikdash, everybody was crying, Rabbi Akiva was laughing. And we find a few places where everybody was crying, Rabbi Akiva was laughing. And then we find one place where on Shabbos, Rabbi Akiva was crying. So where on Shabbos you're not supposed to cry. So they asked Rabbi Akiva, why are you crying? So Rabbi Akiva said, I feel good to cry. This is part of my Oneg Shabbos, right? Because something when you cry, you actually feel relief when you cry. You actually enjoy crying. Some people enjoy. And the Medrash had very, very special meaning for me, because my younger brother, the one we don't talk about, so he was what do you call it? He was in 5th grade, in day school in 5th grade. And in the middle of the year, they tacked on an extra hour at the end of the day. They had Limudei Kodesh in the morning, Limudei Chol in the afternoon. They didn't want to end the day with Limudei Chol, so they had 1 hour of Mishnayos at the end of the day. They added on an extra Mishnayos. So my brother felt that was patently unfair, because you're adding, that wasn't the deal. That wasn't part of the deal. So he sat in the back of the room. He was in 5th grade, and he cried. So the teachers were upset that the kid is sitting there crying for an hour. The kid is crying. So they called my parents. They said, what? My parents said, why are you crying? He said, because it's not fair. And my parents were always very reasonable. They felt if he's reasonable, they backed him up. And he was reasonable. It's not fair. He cried. So the teachers called up. They said, okay, then you don't have to come to class. Your excuse. He says, no, because that guy shouldn't be different than the other kids. So he sat there in the back and he just cried. So finally I said to him, why are you crying? He said, I feel good when I cry. So when I saw that medrash about Rabbi Akiva, I thought of my brother. How do you like that? So Rabbi Akiva cried on Shabbos. Rabbi Akiva cried because he said to me, I feel good crying. So that's what they answered. That's what the commentaries answer over here. Yeah. So he was also my brother. My brother was the one who had an assignment once. They have to take 20 words and write a sentence. You remember that in school? They give you 20 random words, write a sentence with each word in your English class. Write a sentence with each word. So, the words are like, giraffe, telephone booth, basketball, gloves, that sort of thing. So my brother went home and figured out, he's about 5th grade, 6th grade. He figured out the shortest possible sentence you could write in English. He wrote, I am a giraffe. I am a glove. I am a telephone booth. I am a, and again, the teacher was not amused. My parents were. The teachers were not amused. Then there was one time he had to go. The class had to collect leaves. They had to go in the backyard and collect leaves for some leaf project. So my brother was upset about that. So he didn't want to go collect the maybe give out chumashim to the guys who came in. My brother was not happy about that. So my father said to him, he was 9 years old. He said, "Why don't you want to collect leaves?" So my brother said, "Because it's stupid." So my father said, "You're right, but if you don't, you have to face the consequences. You know what the consequences are." My brother said, "Yeah, I'll fail leaf collecting." I never collected the leaves. Today's a Rabbi in Yeshiva. So if you take a look at Pasuk Tezvav now, Pasuk 50, page 254. So they all cry. Mayor, I did not get to look up your question. I wanted to look it up yesterday, last night, and I didn't get around to it. I thought, why the brothers didn't cry? So it says, the brothers spoke with him. In what he calls. So we said yesterday he cried because one of the reasons he cries is because now he knows they're going to be in a position of having to accept from him, having to receive. It means it's sometimes humiliating to accept gifts from people. People. There's a pasuk that's sode matanos yichya. One who hates gifts, one who rejects receiving gifts, will live longer. Right, but there's sometimes when people give you freebies now, especially in this situation where they're going to have to receive handouts from him because there's a starvation. He's in charge, so he's crying because he knows how bad they're going to feel. Look at the sensitivity here. He's crying knowing how bad they're going to feel, having to receive handouts from him. Number one, and then it says, "V'hakol nishma beis Paro lemor bo ache Yosef." It was heard in Paro's palace that Yosef's brothers came. Vayitav beinei Paro v'nei avodav. Paro and his servants, Paro and his servant, his inner circle, they were happy about this. Now, I told you when we first started a couple of days ago, turn back to page 252, Pasuk Memhei, Pasuk Beis, 252, 8 lines from the top. So it says the Torah says, when Yosef revealed himself to his brothers, nobody was there. And then it says, Vayitein eskolo bivchi, he started crying, Vayishmu Mitzrayim, Vayishma beis Paro. And we said it was there are different opinions how Paro heard about it, but according to one opinion, he was crying so loudly and so hysterically that it penetrated the walls of Paro's palace. Yet, then it tells you the whole story, and now it skips 14 psukim later, it says, it was heard in Paro's palace that Yosef's brothers came, and Paro was happy. So I was thinking, why is Paro happy all of a sudden? Now imagine you're the ruler of Egypt. Imagine you're the president of the United States, and you hear somebody says to you, your finance minister. I remember the last one, the Rabbi Alan Greenspan was the head of the Treasury. I don't know who it is now. Who's the head of the Treasury in America? I don't know who it is now. But imagine the head of the Treasury, you're the president, and you all of a sudden somebody says to you, sir, the head of the Treasury is crying hysterically. Like, oh no, there goes my, I'm going to lose the next election for sure because the people vote the economy. Right? The economy, the last thing I want to hear is the head of my treasury is crying. If the head of the army is crying hysterically, no, nish gefährlich, that they bombed the wrong country. Nish gefährlich, killed a few innocent people. But if the head of the treasury is crying, there goes my career, right? So can you imagine Paro, he hears Yosef's crying hysterically, like, oh no. And he says, it's because there was a family reunion. Oh, good. Vayita beinei Paro. Oh, no, that's the best news I've heard all day. That's what I heard. Yosef and the family are here. Oh, that touches my heart. But it's not the treasury. No, nothing to do. Okay, good. We're just so happy. Somebody send them a cake, will you? Send them a cake and a couple of beers. The family is here. Let them celebrate. As long as it's not the treasury. So Paro's happy and everybody else is happy. And one of the unfortunate points out over here, why would Paro serve? First of all, there's an idea here that why is Paro happy? Well, if one Yosef is good, then 10 Yosefs is going to be even better. If one Yosef has been good for your country, then 10 Yosefs is going to be even better, number one. Number two, there's the idea that if the family came here, I guess Yosef's staying. There are a lot of benefits over here in the family coming. Number three, he was telling us the truth all along, that he's not just a slave. You know, it's kind of embarrassing to have a slave running your country, right? It's one thing when there's a drunk running your country, right? And even he got thrown out of office in England, right? But when there's a slave running your country, that's pretty humiliating, right? What was he doing at the party over there? The party was bring your own booze, Yakov, bring your own booze. That was the party they didn't have during Corona, right? That they didn't have during Corona, which cost them his office. And there was a BYOB party, right? There was right, a bring your own booze party. Yeah. So you got, what do you call it? And Winston Churchill was also, it was known as, it wasn't a teetotaler either, right? Lady Esther once said to Winston Churchill, here's the lady he couldn't, here's the lady who said to him, my dear sir, if I was married to you, I would poison your tea. He said, Madame, if I was married to you, I would drink it, right? So she once said, that's a famous line, but she once said to him, my dear sir, she once said to him, my dear sir, you are disgustingly drunk. He said, Madame, you are disgustingly ugly, but tomorrow morning I'll be sober. It was very quick. So you know, it's also, this is the guys running your country. Okay, so you know, if one Yosef is good, so a lot more, the others are more, 10 of them are better. And one of the my fortune says over here, what do you think in general that politicians think of each other? And everybody's standing around. You know, each one of them, if he could, he would stab the other guy and take his. No, none of them are like it. They're a bunch of, you know, everybody's competing. It's dog eat dog. Everybody wants. Here you have Yosef. They find out Yosef's family has arrived, and everybody's happy for him, which means that Yosef managed, in spite of power and glory and everything else that Yosef had, he managed not to rub people the wrong way. Yosef managed, if they're happy for him, it's very rare that a man in a high position, people, you know, especially in politics, that people actually like you and think you're a good guy. And if people thought Yosef was a good guy and they're happy for him, that means he didn't rub people the wrong way, which, by the way, could also be that Yosef himself originally got sold because his position did rub people the wrong way. Remember the brothers. And now Yosef has learned to walk through, you know, to do it in a way, which is always tricky. When you're an authority figure, you're a star, and you don't, you know, you maintain your humility, maintain your what do you call it, to keep people happy. So celebrities in general are not always known as the most humble people. They don't, you know, they could rub people the wrong way. They goes to their head a little bit. Then you always get these, you hear about these modest celebrities who they even know the name of the doorman and the guy who cleans the clubhouse, you know, the guy, they know all the guys' names, everybody. And the first day they'll say, yeah, he was a nice guy. He never let it go to his head. So Yosef manages to keep everybody happier. Okay. So then Yosef tells them, he continues talking, and then he wants to communicate with his father. And if you skip on ahead to the bottom of page 254, so the last word on 254. He's going to send the brothers back now. Ula aviv sholach kazos, he sent the following to his father: Asara chamorim nosi mituv Mitzrayim, 10 donkeys carrying the best of Egypt. We'll see what that is. Ve'eser asonos, and 10 donkeyettes, nosos bar v'lechem u'mazon, carrying bread and provisions, la'aviv l'derech. So Yosef is going to send now to his father. He sends 10 donkeys carrying the best of what they have to offer in Egypt. Take a look at Rashi. What is this, the best of Egypt? So Rashi says, Mituv Mitzrayim. It's the top line of Rashi. You find the, please show the person. The top line, right column of Rashi in 256. At the end of the line says, Mituv Mitzrayim. Matzinu b'Gemara, Rashi says, we found the Gemara says, what did he send him? Sheshalach lo yayin yashon, aged wine, shedas zekenim nocha himenu. He sent him aged wine, which old people, das zekenim, they're pleased with old wine, right? Older people like wine. So why do older people like old wine? It's not just because, oh, that makes me so warm. Oh, a good wine. It's so cold in here. Oh, give me some. Like the old guys in shul knocking off a schnapsel on Shabbos. Who knocking down a schnapps. So why do old people like wine? Why should old people be something that's specifically pleasing to old people? What's the most basic idea? Because old people, especially men, the Rashi brings down later on, one of the most amusing Rashis in Chumash, that there's an old saying. He brings it down in Parshas, I think at the end of Parshas Matos, when it talks about values of people. He says there's an old saying, an old woman in the house is a treasure in the house. An old bubby in the house is a treasure in the house. An old man in the house is a nuisance and an obstacle. Right? That's what Rashi brings down. That's an old saying. Why is that? Because a bubby in the home, she may be a little slower than she used to be when she was younger, but she essentially does the same thing. She cooks. She gives you medical advice. She could help with the babies. She basically does the same thing, just maybe a little bit slower. An old man in the house, all he does is he loses his dentures, and he tells you the same stories over and over, right? That's what the old guy, did I ever tell you the time about how I lost my dentures? That's and he can be a nuisance. They can't help. He doesn't know how to cook. What happened to this guy? This guy used to be the head honcho. He used to run the show. And an older man feels often that he's lost his stature. Where does that not apply? By Talmidei Chachamim. Talmidei Chachamim says the older they get, the smarter they get. The older they get, the wiser they get. They become the leaders. They're the people, the Reb Chaim Kanievskis and Reb Gershon Edelsteins those are the people everybody looks up to. Wine defies natural law. Wine is the only thing in the world, it's the only food that the longer you leave it, the better it gets. It ages. Wine ages, and it ages. Okay, there are other food. Okay, cheese also. I think they age cheese or whatever it is. But right, and those of us who are more sophisticated, we like hanging salami, right? You leave that because we're really, really sophisticated people. But wine defies natural law. You leave the wine, and the wine gets better with age. There's actually an incident where they found a bottle of wine. This was from years ago. They found a bottle of wine from the time of Napoleon, which was about 200 years old. In England, they found a bottle of wine from the time of Napoleon. So they had the grand opening. And they had all the lords and ladies who came, with the tuxedos and their gowns, for this, everybody's going to taste this wine. And in a scene out of Monty Python, the waiter comes walking in with he's got the wine bottle on the cushion, and he comes walking in, and sure enough, he slipped on the slick marble floor. The wine went down and shattered, the bottle shattered, and without a moment's hesitation, all the lords and ladies dove down on the ground to lick up and taste Napoleon wine. A couple of them probably went for stitches in their tongue, but they went down on the ground for Napoleon wine. That means when something's important enough to you, so you don't really care what other people think. They dove down on the ground, which is a lesson to us, by the way, when sometimes people are self-conscious about wearing a yarmulke. Because what are people going to say if I wear my yarmulke? Well, who cares if it's important enough? If I gave you $50 to wear your yarmulke, you wouldn't care what people say. So if it's important enough, we could get past that. So the old wine, Yosef is sending a message to Yaakov Avinu. Now listen to the message. I know that old men, what is he saying to Yaakov Avinu with the wine? He's saying the same way that wine gets better with age, I see you, my father, as having gotten better with age. That means I'm loyal to the tradition. The first thing Yaakov's concerned about more than Yosef's physical life is what? His spiritual life. So Yosef's got to send the message to Yaakov Avinu to communicate to Yaakov Avinu that in spite of being in Egypt, in spite of all that where he is, he's still the same Yosef that left home. So he sends Yaakov Avinu wine because he knows that old men like wine, because that's a way of communicating to Yaakov Avinu that not only Yaakov Avinu has gotten better, that I myself, Yosef, have gotten better with age. I haven't let all the trappings of the glory and the intrigue of Egypt get to me. I'm the same Yosef, even more than that. What happens to wine when it spoils? It becomes vinegar. Okay, now listen to this. This is unbelievable. Why does wine spoil? What causes wine to spoil? The air gets in, right? the air gets in. If it's not hermetically sealed, somehow the air gets in and that causes the wine to go off. Yosef is saying to Yaakov Avinu that I've been in an environment where the air is polluted with all the spiritual contaminants you could possibly think of. And none of them have seeped in. I've been hermetically sealed. I've remained loyal to the faith. And that's the message of the wine. The Gemara says, there's a Gemara in Baba Metzia says that Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, who was in the cave, he had a son, he and his son Elazar, Reb Shimon. At a certain point, the Gemara says this Reb Elazar was appointed by the king as a policeman to catch criminals, because he once saw a policeman and he gave him a tip on how to determine when he walk into an inn in the morning. You walk into an inn, he could look at people and tell them based on what if they're nodding off. If a guy's falling asleep at 10 o'clock in the morning while he's eating breakfast or he's eating his 10 o'clock snack, so why was he up? If he's falling asleep, that means he was up late at night. So why was he up late at night? So he says, if this is his profession, so he was up late at night, you ask about the guy. If he's a certain type of profession that works at night, so that's why he's tired. If he's a Talmid Chacham, it means that because he was up late learning Torah. If he's a guy in Ohr Somayach, it's probably because he was doing a lot of WhatsApping, right? But if he's none of the above, so why was he up late at night? If none of the above, that means he was out robbing and that's arrest that guy. So when they heard that Reb Elazar, Reb Shimon was good at these at criminology, they appointed him as a policeman. So he went around arresting people, including Jews who were criminals. So Rabbi Yoshua ben Korcha, who is the son of Rabbi Akiva, he's called Rabbi Yoshua, the son of the bald one, ben Korcha. Because Rabbi Akiva had a code name. His code name was the bald one. Why did he have a code name? Because he was on the run from the Romans. Remember, the Romans killed Rabbi Akiva, so he was hiding. So he had a code name. His son was called Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha, the son of the bald one. So he was, I'm not a fugitive, by the way, but he was. Rabbi Akiva apparently, you picture Rabbi Akiva. This just tells you sometimes if you have a picture in your mind of Rabbi Akiva. Why do you picture Rabbi Akiva? You may have this picture of Rabbi Akiva, right? Did you picture him bald? What color is his beard, and how long is it? Who knows if he had a long beard or a short beard? Maybe his beard didn't grow well. We have these images, long white beard, with the Rebbe, Rebbe. I don't know. At the end of the day, Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha sent a message to Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon. He said to him, "You are vinegar, the son of wine." Why? Because his father was Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, who was wine. You, Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon, are wine that's gone off. Why? Because he disagreed with his policy of being a policeman and arresting Jews also. So they had a machlokas whether or not he should be doing it. But what did he call him? He called him vinegar, the son of wine. What's Yosef sending Yaakov Avinu? He's sending Yaakov wine. He's saying, I'm not vinegar, the son of wine. You're wine and I haven't gone off. I'm wine also. And therefore he's sending him a message over here that I have not gone off. I have maintained my loyalty. That's what Yakov is sending Yosef. Okay, Yosef is sending Yakov. Okay. So then Yosef says to the brothers the following. Vayishalach esecha vayelechu, he sends his brother, Vayomer aleim al tirgizu badorech. Now Rashi, the article translates it as, don't become agitated. That's what the word tirgizu means. Tirgizu, Hebrew, rogez means anger. Right? Now, what would you think al tirgizu b'derech means? Probably don't start bickering. You're on your way home after this has all been revealed and everything else. What would you expect what would you expect to have happen now? It's your fault. Well, I told you we shouldn't sell them. Why did you? It wasn't a good idea. Terrible. It was all your fault. All this, you can imagine what would happen. You can imagine. So take a look at Rashi. Take this for a ride, guys. Rashi says, al tirgizu b'derech. Says Rashi, Al tisasku bidvar halacha. Don't get involved. 4 lines from the top in Rashi, right column. Don't get involved in a halachic discussion. Shelo tirgaz aleim aderech, so that you don't get confused that you'll lose your way. Don't get involved in a sugya now. Principle, it is it. A principle doesn't. You can land without land, borrowing land. Don't get involved in a whole Talmudic discussion, a halachic discussion over here. Doesn't this strike you as strange? You just revealed yourself to your brothers, and this is very dramatic, And on the way home, you're telling them, by the way, but don't get involved in a halachic discussion. I mean, honestly, between me and you, if we would have been the guys on the receiving end, I probably would have, if it would have been me and you, Chaim, I'd probably on the way home, I'd say, wow, that was really something, wasn't it? I mean, I've never been so shocked in my life, you know. If it was women, they'd go, oh, I felt so sentimental. Oh, wow. One of those sort of things. And even men aren't going to be much better. Oh, like, whoa, that was so, whoa, yo, what's up with that? Yo, and then, but it was your fault anyway. And it wasn't my fault, it was your fault. It was not my fault. I was against it. I was for the snakes. And no, you were not. You said, the men are going to start arguing. What does Yosef say? Don't start discussing Prusbul on the way home. Because you're going to get into it, then you're going to get confused. I mean, that's a strange thing to be worried about right now. So I heard from the Rosh Yeshiva of Daniel Lairfield, Rosh Yeshiva, he said, you see what Yosef expects of his brothers? What are you expecting from people at this level? With the most dramatic occurrence in your life, but their head, where is your head still going to go right? But what's your idling state? Right back to Torah. Right back. Yeah, it was a hassle. Yeah, the stock market is down. Yeah, we got cleaned out. I didn't understand that Prusbul, you can lend with land or you can't lend. Yeah, you understand? That's where your life is. That's where your head is. That's the first thing. Then Rashi says, Davar acher, al tafsiu psia gasa. Psia gasa literally means a giant step. Don't be in a hurry. Don't move too fast. No, stay with this, guys. You're going to love this. The Gemara says, Psia gasa, a person who's moving, you're running, you're hurrying, it takes away 1/5 of your vision, 1/500th of your vision. Psia gasa, they'll tell us, it takes away 1/500th of your vision. That's a statement in the Gemara. And the Gemara says, how do you restore it? How do you restore your vision? With the wine you drink at Kiddush on Friday night. Very, very bizarre statement. With the wine you drink Friday night, I mean, some of the amount of wine some people drink, they probably restore a lot more than that. Hey, well, if a little wine restores a little bit, so a lot of wine is probably better. And you could drink a little bit on Friday, and there's nothing wrong with putting yourself in it, not too much. But it's enough to get your appetite up for some gefilte fish, if you're a gefilte fish guy, right? Which I'm not. But if you're what do you go? Whatever you're gonna. Yeah, okay. What does that mean? What does that statement mean? What does that mean, Psia gasa? The answer is, one of the explanations is that if you're hurrying through life, you're running through life, it distorts your vision. You forget what's important in life and what's not. Takes away part of your eyesight. You can't see straight in life. You're running. You're in such a hurry that you don't even realize why you're doing what you're doing. I'm going to work and I'm going to get a job so I can get money, so I can go to work, so I can get a job, so I can get money. You're just in you're in a rat race and you don't even see where you're going. What restores your sensibilities? You sit down on a Shabbos and everything comes to a grinding stop. Oh, what's life really about? Meaning the wine of Kiddush that restores it. Wine of Kiddush is a symbol of Shabbos. Stop! Sit down, relax. Tap into a little bit of ruchnius. Start thinking a little. People in the world don't even have time to think. Everybody has 5 minutes to think. We're all moving so fast. Haven't got time to stop and just wonder, why am I doing this? So symbolically, that's what it means. Yosef's brothers, Rashi said earlier, take a look. When Yosef reveals himself, it says they drank with him. Where is it? Where does it say Vayochlu Vayishtu? Where does it say they drink? It says that after he revealed himself, and they here it is. forgot where the pasuk is. It says that they drank with him. They drank with Yosef. And Rashi points out that was the first time that from the time they had sold him, they never drank. From the time they sold him, they never drank. Okay? Where is it? Just one second. You check on page... where is it? I can't find it, but where it says there's a pasuk here. That says that they drank with Yosef, and Rashi says from the time they sold him, they never drank wine. Now earlier when they went home, he never said don't go psia gasa. He never said don't take that big giant step, don't go too fast. All of a sudden now he says don't go too fast. So Rashi says when they drank wine with Yosef, says it's the first time they drank wine since they sold him. What does that mean? That means for 22 years they didn't drink wine. So what did they do on Friday nights? What did they do on Friday nights if they didn't drink wine? They made kiddush on challah. Right? They didn't drink wine. This is the first time they're drinking wine. Oh, what does Yosef realize? You found the pasuk?
It's in
Mem He Yud Chet. Thank you. Where is it?
in the end of Yud Chet.
Mem He.
Yud Chet. In the end of it.
Mem He Yud Chet or Mem Daled Yud Chet? I'm looking at Yud Chet. It's not there.
They're not drinking.
1 second.
And the end.
Last
Yud Chet.
week's Parsha, they also drank. They got drunk when Benjamin.
So maybe where is it, Mary? I don't find it. Mem Daled Yud Chet or Mem?
Hey, Yud Chet is
What page? What page?
No. Yud Chet is.
What page is it?
It's I made a mistake.
They drank with him in the case.
What page is that?
It's 244.
244. Okay. Right. Vayishtu vayishkuru vayisa masos beisva v'ter masos vayishtu vayishkuru. Rashi says over here, miyom shemacharu lo shasu yain v'lo hoshita v'osa yom shasu. They drank. Why did they drink? They had a drink to prove they're not spies. They had a drink to prove they're not spies. Yosef says, "Come in, guys. Here's wine." Now if they say, "Oh, we don't want to drink," why don't you want to drink? Right? Or what do they say? Loose lips sink ships. Right? Well, wine looses up. So they had no choice but to drink. Okay. But it says that they didn't drink before that. From the day they sold them, they didn't drink, which means they couldn't have made kiddush on wine. If they didn't drink, they make kiddush on challah. Fine. But they themselves know that if they don't have wine, they knew the Gemara also. They haven't got the cure for walking too fast. So up until this point, there was never a concern that they would go too fast. Now that they've drunk wine, Yosef says, okay, don't go too fast. You understand? Yosef knows that they know the Gemara. If we know the Gemara, they knew the Gemara. And they knew that if you go too fast, it takes away 1/500th of your eyesight, and the only way to restore it is with wine. But if they don't drink wine for the last 22 years, they're also not running too fast because they know they don't want to lose 1/500. But what happens now? Now they did drink wine. So now Yosef's concerned, but once they drink wine, they're going to run too fast. So Yosef says, don't go too fast. Okay, let's go on. Now, I don't know. I thought it was interesting. In any event, take a look at Pasuk Chav Zayin now. So the brothers come home. Back on page 256. The brothers come home, and in Pasuk Chav Vav it says, "Vayagidu lo leimor." They go to Yakov Avinu. Vayalu mimitzrayim v'yavo eretz Canaan leYakov Aviem. Fourth line from the top. Vayagidu lo leimor od Yosef chai. Yosef's living v'chiyu Moshe b'chor Yitzrayim, and he's ruling over Egypt. Vayofa glibo ki lo hamin lahem. His heart fluttered because he didn't believe them. I mean, if you're telling me now he's alive, that means last time you were lying. That means if last time you were lying, so maybe this time you're lying, so now I don't know what to believe. Right? You get the little boy who cried wolf. Right? You don't know which was true, which wasn't true. Now once you've told me this, that means that was a lie, so this could also be a lie. So I don't know what to believe. So what they were really telling him was, Od Yosef Chai, meaning, tzaddikim are called Chai. Rishoyim are called Mace. So the first thing they're telling him is Od Yosef Chai, He's alive. He's still a tzaddik. V'chihu moshel b'chol eretz Mitzrayim. He's a ruler. Over what? Over all of Egypt. That means none of Egypt has gotten to him. They're trying to tell Yaakov Yosef's spiritual level. And Yaakov doesn't believe him. So, now stay. When does he believe him? Only when he sees the wagons. Because we'll see that the wagons allude to the Torah that he learned with Yosef. At that point, he believes. Why? Because the only way, Yaakov says, there's no way he could have stayed a tzaddik in Mitzrayim without Torah. If he had Torah, then he could have stayed a tzaddik. So he don't, at this point, they just said, yeah, he's a tzaddik, he's good, he's pure, he's everything. Then when they see the wagons, and that reminds him, Yosef is sending him a message of the last Masechta that they learned. He says, he's connected to Torah. Then I believe it. That's the only way a person can maintain his spiritual level, is if you're connected to Torah. If you learn Torah, then you can say, without Torah, it's not going to work. You got to be involved in learning. But, the Ramban says, Vayafeg libo, over here, he had heart stoppage. So you know the famous medrash, how they broke the news to him. How do you tell somebody that he just, that give him shocking news? So there's a famous medrash that Serach, the daughter of Asher, she came in, she played the harp. And she came in, you know the famous medrash, she came in to break the news gently. And she came in playing the harp. Ooh, Yosef. She'd come in and say, Yosef's alive! That's the worst news. That's the worst thing you could do. She played it to Yosef, and Yakov will say, well, Yosef is, Yosef, however she sang it. And then the Medrash says that Yaakov said to her, you brought my spirit to life, therefore I bless you that you're going to live forever. And she's one of the 9 people, it says, Serach Batzashu, who never died. They never died what we understand as human death. Whatever that's what the Medrash said, because she brought his spirit to life. I told you this story about the guy, old man Murph. Old man Murph won $10 million in the lottery. And the family was nervous. He was a very old man. How are you going to break the news to him? You know, he's an old man telling me he won $10 million. The shock could kill him. So they hired an expert psychologist. So the psychologist comes in. He says, Murph, what would your reaction be if I told you you won $100? You go, well, I like you, so I'd take 50 and I'd give you 50. He goes, what would your reaction be if I told you won $10,000? I go, well, I'd take 5,000, give you 5,000. He says, what would your reaction be if I told you won $10 million? He goes, well, I'd take 5 million, give you 5 million. Psychologist had a heart attack and died on the spot. So they're nervous. They're nervous that they're going to come in now to Yaakov Avinu. They're going to break that. So she breaks the news to him. But the Ramban says, he didn't believe them. He was skeptical. Now, pay attention very carefully. They spoke everything Yosef spoke. Vayares ha'agolos asher sholach Yosef loseis oso. He saw the wagons. Vatichi ruach Yaakov avim. His spirit came to life. Take a look at Rashi, left column. And Rashi says, where is it? Is it Rashi or... So the Gemara, oh yes, es kol divrei Yosef, second line from the top. Second line from the top, es kol divrei Yosef, siman masar lahem. By sending the wagons, he was sending a sign. B'maha ya'osei keshepirish b'menu. What were they studying? What Torah were Yaakov and Yosef studying when he left? The Parshas Egla Arufa. Egla Arufa means, an Egla is a calf. Agolos is a play on the word egla. Some say that these wagons were being pulled by the agalos, by oxen. So they were studying the section of the egla arufa. What was the egla arufa? The egla arufa was if they found a Jewish man who'd been killed. A Jew had been killed. And they found his body out in the wilderness. What they would do is, and they don't know who killed him, they would measure from the nearest city, and then they would take a calf down to the valley, and they would break the neck of this calf. That's a pasuk in the Torah, the Egla Arufa. They would break the neck of this calf as a atonement for this guy being murdered and we don't know who killed him. That's what the Torah says. Why was this guy killed? So Gemara says that if you don't escort a guest, the elders, when they would come out, the elders of that town, the Zakanim would have to come out and say, we didn't spill this blood. We didn't murder him. So Gemara says, do you think that the biggest Talmidei Chachamim, the elders of the Beis Din in town, are they a bunch of murderers? They got to come out and say, we didn't spill this blood? Gemara says, what they were saying is, we didn't let him go without escorting him. Because when you escort somebody, he's protected. Why is that? That's why you walk a guest 4 amos out of the house, right? You heard that idea, you have to walk at least 4 amos. It's just a good idea, by the way, because that way you make sure he leaves. But if the Gemara says that if you walk a guest out, you escort a guest, and if you don't escort a guest, it could cost him his life. Why is that? Because in the old days, when a guy left the house, say went out into the wilderness, there are highwaymen and bandits and everything else. When you escort somebody, and the farther you escort him, so then any of the bad guys, they see that there's accountability. Somebody cares about this guy. If this guy disappears, somebody's going to come looking for him. Maybe that'll stop them from killing him. But if you just let a guy go unattended all alone, so then what's going to happen? Chances are nobody else cares about him, so we don't care about him either, so he may get killed. That's what the Gemara says. Yosef sends Yaakov Avinu a message, Egla Arufa. Why is he sending him this message? So there are 2 opinions here. There's one opinion that he was saying to Yaakov Avinu, you know why I survived all these years? Because when you sent me to check on the brothers 22 years ago, you escorted me. That's why I lived through it, otherwise I would have been killed. And it's because you escorted me that merit of that mitzvah, that saved me. That's one opinion. The other opinion is that he was sending him the opposite. There's another opinion that he didn't escort him. He's saying, Dad, you know why we had all this aggravation? We had all this aggravation because you didn't escort me. Had you escorted me like you should have, like the Egla Arufa, then I would have never had the separation. There are 2 opinion approaches here. So approach number 1, I understand. He wants to tell Yaakov Avinu it's not your fault because you did escort me. But according to approach number 2, that he's sending Yaakov Avinu, he says, Dad, this was all your fault. Why is he sending him that message? Now, of all times? Why is he sending him that message? So one of the commentaries said, the Meforshim, I think 2, I saw in 2 Meforshim, they say he specifically wanted to send him a sad message to counteract the shock of the good message. Like imagine your wife says, I have a surprise for you. I have a surprise for you. I say, yeah, what? You're going to see soon. What is it? Well, I bought a lottery ticket. Oh, you got to be kidding me. No. I bought a lottery ticket last year, and it's a lot of money. I go, wow, that's unbelievable. Yes, and my mother's going to be bringing it soon. Oh, and the door opens up, and your mother-in-law comes in with $50,000 cash. It just kind of, so because of the fear of the shock, Yosef specifically sends, according to some of the Mefarshim, he wants to send a message that's going to be a counterbalance to that thing. That's what the Mefarshim say. Okay. I'm just skipping on ahead because we're not going to have time for this next week. There's one key point over here. If you take a look ahead when Yosef and Yakov meet. So Yakov heads down and skip all the way ahead to God tells him he should go down, and then go ahead to page 260 very quickly. We have a minute left. You know what? We're not going to do it justice. Let's leave it for next time. We'll do this next week in Mirz Hashem. It's too important to rush through it.